At 35,000 feet above North Vietnam, the night sky appeared calm, almost empty. The stars were sharp, unmoving. But inside the aluminum body of a B-52 Stratofortress, nothing felt calm at all. The bomber droned forward, its 8 engines producing a constant, vibrating roar that filled every corner of the aircraft. The sound never stopped. It pressed into the skull, into the chest, into the nerves. For the men aboard, there was no escape from it. Not now, not until they were back on the ground. Each crewman sat at his station, lit by dull green instruments, surrounded by switches, dials, and checklists that had been memorized long ago. Captain Robert Hayes glanced at the clock, then back at the altimeter. They were right on time, 10 minutes to bomb run, he said, his voice steady over the intercom. No one replied. They didn't need to. Every man on the crew already felt the tension tightening. Straight and level flight meant vulnerability. The B-52 was massive, powerful, and terrifying in what it could deliver, but it was not agile. Over North Vietnam, that mattered. Behind the cockpit, the electronic warfare officer leaned closer to his console. His headset crackled with warning tones. Search radars first, then tracking radars. One by one, the sounds stacked together, forming a chaotic electronic chorus. They're painting us, he said. Multiple fan-song radars. SAM sites are awake. Outside, the darkness hit everything. No ground lights. No horizon. Just black space and the faint glow of other bombers in the formation. Their navigation lights dimmed to pinpoints. Far back in the tail, Staff Sergeant Tom Keller sat alone in his compartment. The isolation was total. He couldn't see the rest of the aircraft, couldn't hear the engines the same way the others did. His world was a radar scope, a narrow field of view through night objects, and the knowledge that if enemy fighters came, they would come for him first. Keller flexed his fingers, then rested them on the firing controls of the quad .50 caliber machine guns. The weapons felt almost anachronistic guns in an age of missiles, but they were still there for a reason. Tail clear, he reported quietly. Below them, the first surface-to-air missiles launched. The sky suddenly came alive with streaks of fire, rising from invisible points on the ground. Bright orange trails climbed fast, bending toward the bombers like hunting spears. SAM launch, 6 o'clock low, the navigator called. The B-52 shuddered as a missile detonated nearby. The explosion didn't hit them, but the shockwave rippled through the airframe, rattling metal and nerves alike. Hold it steady, Hayes ordered. Do not break formation. On the ground at Phuoc Yen Air Base, warning sirens wailed into the night. Pilots ran across concrete soaked with fuel and rain, their shadows flickering under floodlights. Mechanics pulled away ladders as engines ignited. Lieutenant Win Van Lem climbed into his MiG-21, his movements quick but precise. He had done this before, yet his heartbeat still thundered in his ears. Somewhere above, bombers were coming, big ones. The kind that flattened neighborhoods and left nothing but smoke and rubble behind. The canopy closed. The engine screamed to life. Target group approaching from the west, the ground controller said over the radio. Large aircraft. Maintain radio silence. Attack from the rear. The MiG leapt into the sky, climbing hard. Hanoi disappeared beneath a layer of cloud as Lem followed vectors from the ground, his radar guiding him toward a massive return ahead. Back in the B-52, the warning tones grew louder, sharper. New contact, the electronic warfare officer said. Fast mover. Could be a MiG. In the tail, Keller saw it almost at the same moment. A blip appeared on his scope, closing rapidly. I've got a fighter coming in from 6, he said, forcing his voice to stay calm. Range 2 miles and closing. The MiG pierced the darkness behind the bomber, its nose pointed straight at the massive silhouette ahead. Lem could see it now, huge, slow, unavoidable. He adjusted his approach, waiting for the moment when everything would line up in the tail. Keller centered the target, his breathing slow, measured. Come on, he murmured, watching the distance shrink. The bomber flew on, straight and level, engines roaring, as both men separated by miles of sky and years of ideology prepared for the same instant, knowing that in the next few seconds, one of them would not make it home. The warning tone sharpened, cutting through the steady drone of the engines. Missile launch, the electronic warfare officer called out. Rear aspect. Inside the MiG-21, Lieutenant Win Van Lem squeezed the trigger. The missile leapt forward, its rocket motor flaring bright against the night. For a split second, everything felt certain. The bomber filled his sight, enormous and helpless. Then the guidance wavered, electronic jamming flooded the air. The missile veered, searching for a signal that no longer made sense, before streaking harmlessly past the B-52 and vanishing into darkness. In the tail, Tom Keller did not hesitate, firing. The quad .50 caliber guns erupted, the sound of violent, continuous thunder that shook his compartment. Tracer rounds ripped backward through the sky, bright lines stitching toward the oncoming fighter. Keller tracked smoothly, adjusting by instinct and training, feeling every vibration through the controls. The MiG shuddered as rounds tore into its fuselage. Warning lights flared inside Lamb's cockpit. The engine coughed, then burst into flame. "I'm hit," he shouted, the rest lost in static. For a brief moment, disbelief froze him in place. A bomber had fought back. Not with missiles. Not with escorts. But with guns. The MiG rolled sharply, trailing fire, then dropped away into the cloud layer below, in the tail. The radar screen went suddenly empty, targets breaking up, Keller said, his voice tight. I think he's gone." No one spoke in the cockpit. The realization settled slowly, heavily. "Copy," Captain Hayes finally said. "Good work." There was no cheering. No celebration. Only the return of the engine noise, steady and unchanging, as if nothing had happened at all. And the bomb run was seconds away. "Stand by," the navigator announced. The bomb bay doors opened, the rush of cold air roaring through the aircraft. Below them, the city and its defenses lay hidden in darkness. On command, the bombs released, dropping away in long, silent lines before the explosions bloomed far beneath the clouds. Then the turn came. The B-52 banked slowly, painfully, its massive wings biting into the air as it headed south, away from the missile belts and the waiting fighters. More SAMs rose behind them, but they fell short now, exploding in the empty sky. Only when the warning tones faded did the crew begin to breathe again. Hours later, back at base, intelligence officers confirmed the report. A MiG-20 had been shot down by a B-52 tail gunner, one of the last confirmed aerial gun victories in modern air combat. For Tom Keller, the news brought no sense of triumph. That night, lying awake, he kept seeing the flash of fire in the dark. "There was a man in that cockpit," he said later. "Just like me." In North Vietnam, the loss was marked quietly. Another pilot gone. Another name added to the wall. For his comrades, Nguyen Van Lam became a memory, a young man who climbed into the sky and did not return. The war went on. Missions followed missions. Bombers flew, fighters rose, missiles launched, and men on both sides carried the weight of what they had seen. Years later, when the engines were silent and the uniforms packed away, the moment still remained: two aircraft converging in the night, two soldiers doing their duty, and a single burst of gunfire that decided everything. War had turned the sky into a battlefield, but it left behind something far heavier than wreckage. It left questions. It left silence. And it left the reminder that courage and loss often share the same moment, separated only by the distance between a bomber's tail and a fighter's nose.